Good evening, everybody. Nice to be back with you on a Tuesday night on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Welcome to the virtual Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Welcome to round 1 of 11 in the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries. It is the Real Sim Racing Australia Catalunya Historic 160 for you from Spain as our series starts on European soil. And all roads lead to the Holy Grail. In 75 days' time, the checkered flag falls on this series, this season, this year of RSRA racing with the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. And we can hardly wait for that. Good evening once again, everybody. Zach Cabin with you, back on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting across YouTube and Facebook. We are so excited about what's ahead of us across the next 11 and a half weeks, of course. With all roads leading to that Bathurst 1000 in about, as I said, nearly 75 days' time. So it's only 10 and a half weeks, really, isn't it? It's going to come and go very, very quickly. But as we've seen so often in the past, you just never know what's going to happen in this series. So you've got to keep tuning in each and every Tuesday night because each chapter delivers something special. And we can't expect this series to be any different to the previous. And we can only hope that it goes right down to the wire when we get to the virtual Mount Panorama circuit on Sunday, December 12. JP is alongside me in the commentary box for this evening. We'll get to him in just a moment. But firstly, let's have a look at where we're going and what we're doing over the course of the next 11 weeks here, because it is one heck of a calendar for you, ladies and gentlemen. We start here tonight, Barcelona Historic, of course. So we're using the old Grand Prix configuration, think circa 1995. Through to 2003 for this particular round. We're excited about a 34-lap race here. We'll get to the track information and the guide and everything else in just a moment. Then another famous Grand Prix circuit, the Suzuka Grand Prix track in Japan. Another Grand Prix circuit after that, the Hungaro Ring in Hungary. That's a new circuit to the iRacing platform. It'll be our first super sprint of the season. Long Beach, where the IndyCars have just been in the real world. We'll head there for a 64-lap or leg one of the Triple Crown in 3 weeks' time. That'll be round 4. Then on to Circuit of the Americas for the first time this year, period, for the RSRA. We're looking forward to Dakota. Then on to, we'll stay in America. We'll go to South America, though, and we'll go to the Autodromo Carlos Pace there in Brazil. The Interlagos circuit, of course, Sao Paulo. That'll be our first enduro of the season. We've seen endurance races around there before. We know how they work. It'll be an absolute beauty. That'll be Tuesday, November 2. So straight after you've got on the punt for the Melbourne Cup, in you come to watch an enduro with us. We'll deliver plenty of... that'll be the race that stops the motorsport world that night. Don't worry about that. Then on to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Then to Road America and Summit Point. So a 3-week sweep through America before on to Donington Park. And then a 3-part broadcast for round 11. Tuesday, the 7th of December, we'll be here for qualifying for the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. Then on the Saturday, and this is news that we're going to break here right here and now, on the Saturday night, or the afternoon, in fact, we will be here for the top 10 shootout. And then all day Sunday, strap yourself in, the Ashes on one screen, us on the other, and it will be the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000, the third and final leg of the Triple Crown. So 2 super sprints, 3 Triple Crown events, and a plethora of sprint racing through what is an 11-round season. So by the end of this year, 17, 12, 11, we'll have gone racing on 40 occasions. We'll have gone broadcast mode on more than 40 occasions when you consider that we did a qualifying broadcast for round 17 of the first series as well. So it's been a busy year to this point. What I like about the schedule there is the variety, the diversity of the circuits. We've got a couple of IndyCar circuits. We've got a couple of Formula One circuits. We've got a couple of unknowns like Summit Point. It's going to deliver some sensational racing throughout the course of the season. Now, also, you would have seen it there. Make a note of it in your guides as well, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is the only time that we'll be starting a broadcast at 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Next week, the clocks change in the civilised and progressive parts of the country. It'll be 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, or 7:50 in the instance of the round from Brazil. And then, of course, obviously, we've got those different broadcast times, the 3 different broadcast times for the Bathurst 1000. Right, plenty to dissect here as far as qualifying and everything else is concerned, but we can't start this broadcast without taking you on a hot lap of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and JP's ready and raring to go with a lap of this 4.727 kilometre circuit.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. This is probably one of my more preferred circuits. It really lends itself well to the supercar. Lots of hard braking zones here. You need to be really good with being able to trail the brake through the corners and be really committed in certain places. So we're starting off the lap here. We're getting a really good run out of the last corner. Getting on the power nice and early, nice and clean, shifting up through the gears here. So keep the car all the way across, as far to the side as we can. Full power. Now, as we come into the braking zone, we're going to use every little bit of this braking zone as we turn in, trailing the brakes here, getting up onto the corner, using some of that corner there. On the next corner, short shifting in the third gear as we keep going through the track here. Now going in nice and tight, getting a nice exit out of here on the power, nice and early. Once again, using all of the track just as the ripple strip changes colour, braking, trailing the brake, turning in early, on the power nice and early. Little bit of a slide there as we're getting out of the corner. Now we trail the brake going through this section here. Now this section is where you really can make up some good time. So on the power here, trailing the brake as we brake in, turning early, using all of the track here. Use all of the track on the other side. Get over that ripple strip. Now we're trailing the brake, coming through this section here, flat out through here. Now this is going to be another hard braking zone, almost at 100% braking, holding the brake, trailing it down. Nice exit through this corner, double apex this corner here, on the power, nice and early. Now off the power, on the brakes, trailing it through. We're getting through this corner here. Now this section here, use all of the track, and we can turn in early and use as much of the track as we can here. Close to the cones, brings us out nice and wide. Little lift here to help the car turn in. On the power, nice and early, use all of the track on the exit. And that is one lap of the Catalunya Historic Circuit. Great track to race on. Back to you, Zach.
Thank you, JP. Very nicely done, mates. And we'll bring him in to have a chat about everything that's going to unfold tonight in just a moment. Firstly, though, let's have a look at what's unfolding as far as race information is concerned here, folks, because we've got the safety car out on circuit now during the 5-minute warm-up, which also doubles as a driver's briefing here. But it's a very nice swish-looking new safety car livery and new safety car. But I'll get JP to elaborate on that in just a moment. Let's have a look at the race information if we can, because it's a 4.727 kilometre course for the sake of rounding up. It's 4.73 kilometres, this circuit. 34 laps, 160.8 kilometres is the race distance. Pit lane speed limit is 80 kilometres an hour. That's one of the higher pit lane speed limits you'll see in the RSRA Super Series. Normally we're talking 50, 60. So 80 is a nice little flex of the muscle for the guys along pit lane, and it makes the transit time a little bit quicker as well. 49.5 litre is the fuel restriction for these cars. 2 stops tonight, 3.8 litres a lap of fuel burn. And as per usual, the RSRA series, be it in any guise, doesn't matter who the naming right sponsor is, it'll be 2 sets of tyres. So that'll be the set that they start on and a set to take on, most likely, as you normally see, in the second round of pit stops. Race is starting, it's actually starting nicely tonight. 7:45 track time, so it's not too far behind our real world time, but of course it's very much into the future because at the same time, Spain's 8 hours behind Australia. So it's a good thing for us that 19:45 we can get there virtually without being here at 3:45 a.m. 20 degrees ambient, 21 on track, 5 kilometre an hour wind speed in an easterly direction there for you. And of course, the race date is set to today's date, the 28th of September, 2021. And we're looking forward to seeing what might unfold here. Now, what's also interesting for mine is I welcome in JP for the first time this evening, hot lap excluded, of course. Mate, welcome. Brand new series, brand new pace car. I'm pumped up. 11 weeks and all roads leading to the Holy Grail and another 1,000 kilometres. But it's a lot of hard yakka to get to that point. We're going to rack up about 1,000 kilometres of racing, maybe even a little bit more than that, in the lead up to that big one on December 12th.
Yeah, absolutely, Zach. And good evening, Zach, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching us on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Yeah, look, this is going to be an absolute cracker of a series. It's just been getting better and better each season. New races, new teams, new liveries, new safety car. Everyone's pumped and ready to race tonight.
Indeed, they are. Now, just having a look at the fuel numbers here. 49.5 divided by 3.8. That's going to get you just on 13 laps. So 13.26, which means 8 for the run home, which means that second window is going to be anywhere between the end of lap 21 and the end of lap 26. You've got a 5-lap overlap, if you like, for lack of better words, at this time of the night, in which to come in and complete that second round of pit stops. Alternatively, you might go the short fuel first up. You might go 8, 13, and 13. Who knows how you're going to work your way to 34. But you've got to be mindful of the other thing as well. You've got to get home 1 lap after. So you've got 35 laps to consider because you've got to get back to the pit lane under your own steam or cop a 3-place penalty post-race. So that, again, narrows the window, doesn't it? You're more looking towards 13, so 22 would be where most people would easily fuel up, get home, and do it with a lap of fuel in hand. JP, quickly, mate, we've got... Actually, no, I'm going to come back to you. Because the warm-up session is just finishing now. So any tick of the clock, we're going to have cars on the grid here ready to go. Awesome to have your company wherever you're tuning in on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. It's been our highlight of the year to come and join you on a Tuesday night and present this series. We get into the 3rd chapter of Tuesday Night Motorsport for 2021. All bets are off because all points count. And there are a few people lining up on this grid tonight that have scores to settle based on what we saw last season. The Catalunya Historic 160. Brian Borg on the front row alongside Rehan Leonage. Now, Borg's a new name to the series. That's exactly what I wanted to have a chat to JP about, but we can't do that because we're out of time. We'll do that a little bit later on. Dylan Rudd on the second row. There's breaking news with regards to Aaron Dodd. He's starting from pit lane because he had to get a tow in qualifying. Cameron, will explain why later. Cameron Jones, Rana Costello, 3rd row. Jamie Dyke, Dylan Pereira, 4th row. Ben Morrison, Sean McNamara, 5th row. Robert Crisdale and Tom Heyman back on the grid. Row number 6. Row 7, Brenton Nitschke, Sam Noble, Peter Crossingham and David Kirby, row 8. Simon Vella, Michael Angus, row 9. So again, the Calamari Racing boys, Liner Stern there, 16 and 18. Chadwick and Reddit from row 10. Tibra, Schultz, 11. Scholes and Good, 12. Revs rise. Cars roar. Huge field lining up for the first one of the season. I didn't have enough time to get through the grid. They're off and racing in the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And what a start from Rehan Leonage. Down the inside to lead Brian Borg through turn 1. And Borg wants to force the issue on the inside. Nicely done from Borg. Now, can everybody squeeze through? No, they can't. There's one round at the back at turn 1. But a safe start at the front. And Borg and Leonage side by side. Now Leonage tucks in as Borg goes defensive. And Leonage under attack from Rana Costello, who's made up 3 grid positions already. He started 6th. He's up to 3rd. Rehan Leonage is under pressure from Rana Costello now as they come down to turn 5. And Costello is forcing the issue on the inside, trying to muscle his way through. On the inside, the 2 youngsters duking it out. They're going to be 2 names that we need to keep an eye on right throughout the course of the series, along with the likes to Dylan Rudd and Brian Borg and Sean McNamara. McNamara with a huge point to prove in this series after the way it ended in Season 2. Given the way it started, he won't want a repeat of the start he had in Series 2. In Series 3, we go on board with Costello for the first time, down to the long sweeping left hand up. And you'll remember the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, threw up that awesome MotoGP fight 12 years ago between Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo. Who's not to say that we won't get our own overtaking manoeuvre on the last corner in this one here tonight? To the main straight they come. One lap in the book. 33 still to go. Borg, Leonage, Costello, Rudd, McNamara, Dyke and Heyman up 5 spots on the opening lap. Tom Heyman from 12th up to 7th. What a charge from him. And now look at Costello. Goes to the outside. Leonage playing defensive early. That's not going to work for him. Costello to second. Oh, nicely done. Brilliant start from Costello. If there's anyone in this paddock with a point to prove, given how last season fared, it is Reina Costello. We need to keep an eye on him. But the man they're trying to catch at the front, JP, is Brian Borg. He started electrically.
Yeah, Brian's actually, he's really shown his mettle at the start now, and he's really laid down the gauntlet. So these guys have got a little bit of catching up to do.
Indeed they do. And it says a lot to someone like Dylan Rudd, who dominated the last series, that he's boxed in 4th place at the moment. Jamie Dyke up to 5th on the inside of Sean McNamara, so that was nicely done as well. And Dyke, a brilliant season for him, particularly in the Triple Crown, but also in the Super Series. He flew under the radar all season, netted some very good results on the overall scale. Now comes out with a point to prove round by round. He wants to be a prominent feature. He wants to be in here having a chat to us. Not many people would admit to that, but he looks forward to hopefully being in here having a chat to us at the end of each race. He wants podiums this time round. Now, for car 080, there is a drive-through penalty for car contact on the 196. That'll be that incident at turn 1. The 196, Cameron Jones has dropped 29 positions. Can you believe that? Cameron Jones caught up at turn 1 there, down 29 positions. The 080, I'm just having a look to see who it might be, and I'm not having any luck in picking that up at this time. So we'll come back to that for you in just a moment. It's 808. It's a typo. It's Robert Crisdale. So, or is there an? Jamie Dyke. 080, Jamie Dyke. Sorry about that for the confusion, folks. So there's a lot of numbers, and there's a couple of new names that we're all trying to get our head around here. Jamie Dyke has a drive-through penalty. Let's have a look at this. This was turn 1, lap 1, I think you'll find. And the run down to the first corner. Jones, I think, is the red and white car on the outside there. Yeah, that's how it happened. The KFC car round the wrong way. And Jones is forcing his way through from the back of the field. I'm not sure about that one, JP, but race control have made their decision early, and they're the judge of fact at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. They've made their call. Look, I don't know about that one either, but then again, we're not seeing it from the angle that they get to see it from.
Well, that's exactly right. One thing is clear in the early stages, and that is Brian Borg. He's here to make a statement. The 017 leads this race by nearly a second at the moment. 143.14. The opening time for him, as far as fastest laps are concerned. Costello, Leonage, Rudd, Dyke and McNamara made up the top 6. Heyman is 7th. There goes Dyke into pit lane to serve that penalty. So that's going to move McNamara, Heyman, Pereira, Morris, etc., all the way up through the field, one position each. And the big mover early on at the front of the end of town is Tom Heyman, up 6 positions already, from 12th on the grid up to 6th in the early stages. He's having an almighty run at the start here, but the thing for Heyman will be finishing off the job he starts, and then hopefully being able to finish off the season as well, because he was a prominent figure in the early stages of season 1. We haven't seen him for a while, so it's good to have him back. Lap 4 of 34. JP.
Yeah, look, Tommy's having a really good start to the race. Hopefully he's going to be able to keep that on. Looks like he's sort of he's matured a little bit as a sim racer since we last saw him as well. We're not seeing those sort of, I guess, those wing and a prayer kind of dives that he used to have. I think he's going to be definitely one to watch out for this season.
And the other thing as well is that, like so many in New South Wales and Victoria at the moment, this will be his only outlet. This will be his only way to go racing. Oh, car in the dirt there. Well off track. That's Blake Delaney, another new name to the series. And he's going to drop a swag of positions here, is Delaney. In all of that, unfortunate for him to have that off-track excursion. But there are a couple of trouble points and trigger points around this circuit that we need to be mindful of, JP, and I guess that's one of them.
Yeah, 100%. So these guys really have to be a little bit patient, but yeah, they'll learn.
Eventually. Oh, dear. How good's this? Lap 4 in the books. We're on lap 5. Lap 5 of 34 for you. Tuesday night, motorsport on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. And what you're seeing there at the top of your screen, folks, is the clock running down from 2 hours. This is a time-certain race at 2 hours. I think, based on the pace we've seen thus far, 34 laps will be a breeze to get that in before the 2 hour mark. Don't worry too much about that. But it's good to have that clock there all the same. I think that's more a reminder for me that we've got to be out of here at some time before midnight more than anything else. Because we do get a little bit carried away in our post-race shows, as you know, from all the season. Contact! Big moment there, and an equally impressive save as well. Jeez, how did he hold on to that?
Yeah, big hurry on there.
Oh, now there's more carnage, more trouble. Car turned round. This is further down in the field. Lindsay Hobbs in trouble as well.
Let's have a look at that.
We'll have a look at the replay for you here with thanks to NCS. Here it is. So this is Lindsay Hobbs. It was Hobbs that went around. Oh, he got a little wobbly in the corner and then became a pinata. Bounced into the side of the car that was on his outside, and that turned him. And then the car behind him had absolutely nowhere to go. And it all started with the twitch in the middle of the corner there for Lindsay Hobbs. Unfortunate for him. So in all of that, JP, clear set of heels and clear nose for everybody at the front end of town. Borg, Costello, Leonage, Rudd, McNamara and Heyman, the top 6 there. Pereira having an impressive run in 7th. Chrisdale, Angus and Kirby make up the top 10. Let's go down the order a little bit. Ben Morris sits 12th, down 3 positions early. He was one of the hard chargers last season. Chris Barnes, I'm pretty sure, was the one that had that impressive save there a minute ago on the 74. He's sitting down there in 17th position. And then you've got to go down a little bit further through the order. Cameron Jones, having dropped 20-odd positions, is now up to 19th in the Fishy Motors. Into 25th in the 196. Jamie Dyke in the Fishy Motorsports entry up into 26th after serving that drive-through. So Jones has lost 20 positions. Dyke has lost 19. They're the big losers early on here. Sam Noble also caught up in some trouble early. He's dropped 17. Craig Schultz down in 33rd has dropped 11. Rick Sibra down the back end of town in 36th position has dropped 15. And Aaron Dodd on the back of starting down in pit lane is just having an absolute shocker, and he's 37th and dead last at the moment. Lindsay Hobbs, that off-track excursion sees him sitting down in 34th position. So a couple of big losses early on in the positional department, and in a series where all points count, as Sean McNamara will attest from what we saw last season. Oh, geez, Brenton Nitschke almost got muscled out there. In fact, I think it's Nitschke, and did. Oh, geez, what car control from those guys to keep it together. But the elbows are out early. They mean business here, which brings me back to the point, JP. The fact that you saw Sean McNamara have such a shocking opening 2 rounds last series, but end so well, just goes to show how crucial it is to get a good start in the championship here. Trouble on the main straight, car in the wall.
Looks like Bruce Tunnick's come to grief.
Bruce Tunnick, one of our graduates, I think I'm right in saying, from the Super 2 series. He has come to grief. Is he back on the track? He is, but he's down in 32nd position now. The good news about that, we avoid a caution. The bad news, Tunnick's got some damage.
Looks like he's done that all on his own.
Oh, no. Bang. Won't be much damage because it wasn't a solid hit. But it'll be enough to unsettle the left side of the car for the next short period, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, what we're seeing with some of these drivers who are coming up through the ranks now, they were in the Super 2 Series last season. They're now in the Super Series. It will be a bit of a steeper learning curve for them because they're up against guys who absolutely take no prisoners at all.
Yeah, the intensity's the same, but the stakes are higher, and the pressure is applied much more forcefully up in this end of town. There's no doubt about that. They race hard on a Wednesday night. Don't worry about that. Matt and Dean are going to have a great season calling their races. But up here, yeah, it's just that extra edge, isn't it? That extra little bit of competition, and we've seen Rehan Leonage answer that call to arms, if you like, that challenge so beautifully through season 2 after being in the Super 2 Series in season 1. And it'll be interesting to see how the graduates from 2 to 3, season 2 to 3 that is, from Super 2 up into the Super Series, the main end of town, it'll be interesting to see how they answer that challenge over the course of the next 11 weeks. And what's going to be a more interesting, compelling talking point over the next 11 weeks as well is just who teams up with who lines up with, and who's eyeing off co-drivers and recruiting for the Bathurst 1000 on December 12. We cannot wait for that. Lap 8. So this is one of our critical numbers, JP, as I mentioned in the opener there, with it being a 34-lap race. 8 is a critical number because you can technically fuel up here and do a 13-lap run and a 13-lap run and get home. You've just got to save enough fuel to be able to get yourself home on the cool-down lap. So maybe 8 might be one too early. They might go 9 to play on the side of caution, and we've seen that work before. But I'm not sure at this end of the race if any of these guys are going to want to come in early. It's probably more likely going to be that they'll short stint the second run and then fuel up, get home, and do so on a fresh set of tyres from lap 21, rather than going to 13-lap stints, do a 13, an 8, and a 13. I think that's how some of them will play it tonight. Some will go 9, 10, and then obviously that'll trim their third run home on those fresher tyres. But at the end of the day, we've seen that fresh tyres are king at the back end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we'll see is we'll definitely see the front runners stay out a little bit longer. And then it'll be up to who blinks first, who goes looking for that undercut first and dives into the pits on their second stop for the fresh tyres. Tell you what,
010, the 010's got a drive-through penalty there too, by the look of it, JP. We just saw that come up on our screen.
And that was Craig Anspach. And I tell you what, young Rehan Leonage is not letting go of Reina Costello. He has latched onto his rear bumper, and he is just sticking with him.
37 starters tonight. Anspach, who JP just alluded to, he's a lap down. Everyone else on the lead lap at the moment, and car 88 is going to get a drive-through penalty for car contact on car 35. And that happened a few laps ago as well. But race control deal with these incidents as they happen. Pretty instantaneous. And 88 is Dean Powell. So Dean Powell sitting down in 32nd position at the moment. The night's not going to get any easier for him.
And it's great to see race control are all over this right from the very start. They're not letting the guys get away with too much.
But they very rarely do. They usually lay down the law pretty early in the season.
Yeah, well, this is going to be really interesting now. So we've got quite a few new drivers in the series. Now, remember last season, the guys had trouble getting their heads around the pit stop procedures. This is going to be very interesting tonight to see who's actually read the rule books and understands what's supposed to happen.
For the benefit of our viewing audience, JP, what are some of the little tweaks and changes that we've seen to the rules between seasons? Because there's always something to keep everyone on their toes.
Well, the changes have been fairly minimal. It's all about keeping things as consistent as possible for Season 3. minor changes in the way that the penalty points are handed out. Obviously the big talking points have always been the last lap, so all cars must complete a cool down lap, and all cars can only cross one pit bay entering and exiting their pit bay. So they can't drive down the side of the road and go through multiple pit bays. That's the one to watch out for. That's going to be interesting, especially with the new drivers, to see who observes that rule and who slips up.
And that caught a few people out in the first couple of weeks of the last season as well. So don't be surprised if we catch a couple of culprits in the opening weeks of this season as well. Someone getting a little bit friendly with the witch's hat sitting on the side of the road there. Brian Borg leads Reina Costello, and if anything, Borg's not pulling away. This is an impressive opening stint from Costello and Leonage, and Rudd to stay with him as well. And Rudd looks to have some competition. For the bulk of last season, he was the benchmark, the standard. But he's met his match tonight in the form of Borg, Costello and Leonage in the opening stages here. Now, the interesting thing for mine, and I know we spoke about Rehan Leonage at length at the end of the last season, as we go on board with Dylan Rudd right now, the fact of the matter is, on lap 11 of 34, Rudd running the number one this season, of course, by virtue of the fact that he won the RSRA SuperSeries a couple of weeks ago, Tuesday, September 7, of course. We've had a couple of weeks off. We're back in action, and we're here with you every Tuesday night until December 5, or December 7 as it is, and looking forward to it immensely. So just when you thought, 6 days of real-world Bathurst was enough, we come with another 4 nights worth, and we're looking forward to it immensely in that next week. Now, Borg, Costello, Leonage, Rudd, McNamara are the top 5 here at the moment. The emergence of Rehan Leonage was something we marvelled in last season, just to see how he's developed as a driver. Season to season is going to be the fascinating aspect for me this season, JP, because there were a couple of moments last year where the inexperience of the youthfulness of Rehan really showed. It'll be interesting to see how the experience of the Super Series in prime time on a Tuesday night last season serves him for this season, and whether we see a cooler head on the shoulders and a little bit of different thinking under pressure, because there were a couple of occasions, Twin Ring Motegi most notably, where he didn't keep a cool head, and that saw him make one mistake that he probably wouldn't have made with a little bit more experience up his sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he's a switched-on little guy, Rehan, and he would have learnt a lot from last season. And it's already showing in the way he's racing. He's being very patient now, sitting behind Reina. He's not trying anything silly. He's just wearing him down. I think we're going to see a different Rehan this season. Now, as we mentioned Rehan as well, we're looking at Dylan Rudd there in the mix. I kind of get the impression that he's just sitting back and waiting for the first round of pit stops to come through.
And they won't be too far away. We've already got Cameron Jones, Robert Crisdale and David Coleman on pit road. On that note, JP, beautiful segue. We've had Michael Angus, David Kirby, Peter Crossingham already on pit road, as well as the 080 Jamie Dyke. His second trip down pit road. He's sitting down in 32nd at the moment. Aaron Dodd sitting there as well in 33rd position. So it hasn't been an easy night at the office for two guys that we were interested in seeing their progress this season. It's going to be very interesting to see how they bounce back from the disappointment of tonight. But so far, the top 24 yet to stop. You're watching the KFC entry of Cameron Jones there at the moment. Sitting down, well down the order for his liking. Actually, no, my apologies. That's actually the 35, so that's his teammate. My apologies. That's Robbie Bradbury. And he's got Scott Barchin and Robert Crisdale, and behind him, Michael Angus as well. Lindsay Hobbs and Bruce Tannock are ahead. We're on lap 12 here, and Brian Borg's just about to complete that 12th lap and go on to lap 13. So we're about to reach that critical number for these guys. 21 minutes of racing in the book here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya.
Now, something's either happened, or the guys behind Reina Costello, Leonage and Rudd have turned up the wick.
Oh, big moment there. Big moment there for Brian Borg. He just barely hung on to it through the second, the left-hander there, the second part of the chicane at the end of the main straight, because they've all latched onto the back of him. Well picked up, JP. Something's happened today. Down the inside, Dylan Rudd putting a move on Leonage, if you don't mind. Leonage, after the challenge, will hang tough on the outside and hold the inside for turn 5. And Rudd's not done with yet. He wants to go right around the outside to make it work. And Leonage, after the challenge. Oh, what a start to the series for Rehan Leonage. Under pressure from the defending champ and answering it, with consummate ease, if anything. And it hasn't allowed Rainer Costello or Brian Borg to skip away. If anything, Borg's been caught. And it all comes back to that wide exit through turn 2. Costello's right there now. Leonage still under pressure from Rudd. Rudd now not as patient as he was 3 laps ago. Desperately trying to find a way through. He saw that little slip up from Borg as a potential opportunity to try and make some inroads, and it's backfired on him right here. Lap 13. Are they coming to pit lane? No.
Here we go.
Yes, Costello is. Costello's on pit road. Leonage and Rudd all on pit road. Here we go. Pressure cooker moments right here, JP, because they need to get every box right this time round.
Absolutely. Let's watch these guys.
Oh, boy. McNamara's in. Nitschke's in. KFC entry of Jones leaves pit lane. Down in 36th position, Cameron Jones. Now let's wait and see who's the first to leave the box here. Who's going to short fuel? Oh, good exit out of pit lane there.
Oh, something's happened with Costello
Rehan
there.
Leonage. Rainer Costello's in all sorts of trouble because he's stuck in the pit box. This is a disaster for Rainer Costello, and he's on his way now. He's lost about 5 seconds, though. That was a 30-second pit stop. That's costly. That's a race-defining moment right there for Rainer Costello. Tommy Heyman in all of that moves up into 7th. Sean McNamara down to 9th. And Rainer Costello down to 13th position. Borg the leader, Vella second, Delaney third. Vella and Delaney yet to stop. Borg, we know, went on for a 14th lap. Rehan Leonage, the best of those that has stopped. And Dylan Rudd, but Rainer Costello has lost 8 positions here. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, that was some rotten luck there. I don't know whether he's... I don't know at all what happened there to him. Now, Borg comes into the pits now. So this is going to be interesting to see where Rehan is. And Rehan at the moment, he's just done the fastest sector. So he is absolutely on a charge.
He's flying. And in fact, Rehan, it looks to me as though Rehan's on that reverse strategy. He's short fueled here to then long fuel when we get to lap 21, 22, and then get home on that fresh set of tyres. Everyone else looks as though they've fueled long so that they've got that flexibility to pit whenever they please. But it would seem to me, by the fact that Rehan was 4 seconds quicker out of the box, 4.7 in fact, than Dylan Rudd, that he's happy to lead from the front here and then do the hard yards later.
Borg's on the move now.
The Borg on the way out of pit lane. And Dylan Rudd has got Brian Borg. Dylan Rudd has got Brian Borg. That is huge. Dylan Rudd to second. The undercut has worked wonders for Leonage and Rudd. We know that it's a significant undercut for Leonage, but Borg is now boxed in the pack. Crisdale's there in 4th. Heyman is 5th. Then McNamara in 6th. Angus crossing him. Costello, Kirby and Chadwick make up the top 11. Nitschke up into 12th. Then Dyke getting back by, actually, Nitschke and Dyke arguing over the same piece of real estate through turn 1 at the moment. This is the big talking point here, and it is Rehan Leonage leads this race by 7.5 seconds, but we know that he's going to have to pit earlier and fuel longer to get home based on all those numbers that we've seen from everyone that stopped thus far. That was a cracking stop from Rehan, but he has short fueled. I'm convinced that he's short fueled to get himself a better run home and a bit of clear air now to try and make the inroads and benefit from that later. We'll wait and see with interest here. Here's Brenton Nitschke all over the back of Jamie Dyke. Dyke making his way back through the field, even with that drive-through, has got himself back. Off strategy to everybody else. He pitted lap 8, so again, he's thinking that 13-lap run, but it's going to have to be 13 and 14 in his case because he needs that cool-down lap as well. Jamie Dyke has got back up to 12th position. He's off sequence to everybody else, but he's racing hard. Aaron Dodd pitted on lap 4. He's going to have to pit at least twice more by my maths. He can't make it home on 15-lap runs, I wouldn't think. He's pitted on lap 4 and is sitting in 14th position. It's a shocker of a start of the season for Aaron Dodd.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we've got someone here who's speculating maybe Rayner had an unsafe pit entry or speeding in the pits. That could have happened, but if it did happen, he would have had probably about 45 seconds they add to your stationary time if you take a service. So that doesn't look like that would have been the case. Now I'm thinking he may have inadvertently hit his tyres, so it lifted him back up to put tyres on, and then he's unchecked that and it's dropped him again. So not sure what's happened there. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to him and find out.
Hopefully we'll be able to have a chat to him at the end here, and actually hopefully we'll be able to have a chat to Sean McNamara as well, because he's the master behind the calendar that's been put together for this season. And we've got some cracking tracks that we're looking forward to visiting.
Have a look at this.
Like the Hungaro Ring in a couple of weeks, JP.
Rayner is absolutely on a charge now.
Down the inside, and Michael Angus. Michael Angus hung out to dry there. Costello trying to get through on the inside. Angus will hang there. Angus is back up on his inside. Have a look at this. 2x2 through the right-hander. Oh, you won't see much better than that. Costello and Angus, they're clipping, they're touching. And Costello with the around the outside move pulls it off and moves into position number 7. Oh, the kid means business tonight. And he's out to make vengeance for that mistake we saw in pit lane. He's out to try and rectify that. He might run out of the laps to rectify it as good as he'd like to, but every point from this point forward is a bonus, given some of the margins we expect to see at the end of the season. It is going to come down to making sure you tick every box as best you can if you want to be in championship contention on grand final day on December 12th.
Absolutely, and this is interesting now. Rehan is on a charge. He's one of the only drivers that's done a 1:43 in the last lap, and he did a 1:43.4. So he's cleared out to the tune of about almost 9.5 seconds, and he's going to need all of that with short fueling when he comes in for his next stop.
Indeed he is. Oh boy, you can just feel the pressure mounting, can't you? You can just feel the tension building.
Now I'm liking this, Zach. Last season, a couple of drivers had it their own way. This season, not so much.
Exactly right. And to be fair, you want to reinvent the wheel. You don't want predictability. So it's always nice to see new names come to the fore to offer some challenge. Michael Angus is off the road in the background, and have a look at Rayner down the inside. Oh, the runaways through on the inside of Sean McNamara and up into 6th. Next target just down the road there, the blue car, Tom Heyman. Costello is back to 6th.
Now,
meanwhile, the front, Rehan Leonage leads by nearly 10 seconds, JP. This is an extraordinary drive from the youngster.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Now, McNamara had himself a little moment there, and Costello was able to capitalise on that. But the great thing is, and this is a testament to their racing, they still race hard, but McNamara gave Costello just enough room to get through, and didn't close the door or anything like that. He knew he was beaten. Let's just race on, live to fight another day.
Now look at Brian Borg as well, all over the back of Dylan Rudd, and now down the inside. Borg going down the inside of Rudd to 2nd. Oh, what a moment. That's a race-defining moment right there. Borg was on the back foot after that first round of pit stops. Rudd made the undercut work, and now Borg has reeled him in. And this is one of the guys that you are going to have to watch over the course of the next 11 weeks. Brian Borg, what a start to the season from him. They're going to have to catch the youngster Rehan Leonage, but Leonage needs to keep a cool head on his shoulders, and he's got to be mindful of the tyre wear issue late in the race. So they're juggling, they're weighing up a couple of different things here, JP. Leonage is way out in front, but they can't worry about him just yet because he's clearly on a different strategy fuel-wise. But then these guys here, Borg and Rudd, they've got to decide when they're going to come in for their tyres, because they've got to be mindful of the fact that Rehan's going to be compromised by his fuel when he comes in. Then they've got to weigh up, well, do we want to be on fresh rubber earlier or later to then reap in the rewards, I should say, not reap, but reap in the rewards of that fresh rubber at the end of the race. Is 13 laps too long on a stint of fresh tyres at the back end here?
Yeah, 100%. Have a look at this. Rayner's having a look on the outside. Oh, covering move.
Oh, jeez. I tell you what. Down the outside. What a move from Rayner Costello. There's nothing he won't try. Oh, geez, the youngster.
Brilliant move.
They're young, they're brave, they're bold, JP, and they're lunatics at the same time, but that's why we love it.
That was a brilliant move, but I was going to say, Tommy's got to be careful. You know, he made one defensive move, and then he's made another move into the braking zone. So race control will be onto that.
Of course they will. And, I mean, you can understand it. It's easy to get caught out in that trap when it's such a long main straight here. But the rules are there for a reason. So, well, for Heyman's sake, I hope he doesn't get caught out. But no doubt race control will look at it if needs be. And it's not the right end of the race to be defending that hard, I wouldn't have thought. Although that being said, when it's someone like Rayner Costello, I can understand you wanting to reel him in, wanting to keep him at bay, because once he gets by, he's gone. He's already put half a second on Heyman in this half a lap alone. 18 of 34. We're past half race distance. Lap 19 is what we're on at the moment. It's a 34-lap race. You've got eyes on the boys here at the front end of town.
I tell you who the quiet achiever has been tonight. Look at Robert Crisdale, up 7 positions into 4th.
Yeah, it's been a superb charge from Crisdale, hasn't it? He's not too far off Dylan Rudd here at the moment, and Brian Borg's just put 1.7 seconds on him. So it's 10.7 from Leonage to Borg, and then Rudd is 1.6 seconds away, but he's under serious pressure from Robert Crisdale. What a great start of the season this has been for Crisdale. Another one of those guys that flies under the radar, goes about his business quietly, and he's in with a huge chance of a podium tonight. The concerning thing, though, is that he's off strategy to these guys as well. He's running a different strategy because he came in lap 11 and only stopped for about 19.1 seconds. So he will stop out of sequence to these guys, I would suspect. I mean, he's definitely not got to stop twice to get home. He can get home on another stop, but it's just a matter of when he comes in compared to those around him. Will an undercut work? Will an overcut work? So many variables here. And the most impressive thing for Crisdale is that he's taking it to someone like Dylan Rudd, who was untouchable for so many, about 95% of the field last season, JP.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is another interesting little tidbit here. Rehan is slowly pulling away from Brian Borg. Now, Brian Borg's released himself from Dylan Rudd, but he hasn't been able to make any inroads into Leonage. Now, last lap, Leonage did a 43.8. Borg did a 44.01.
Correct.
So, Rehan is pushing as hard as he can. He knows he needs to have time up his sleeve because he's going to be stationary for longer.
Well, that's exactly right. How much longer? That's the critical point here. How much longer is he going to be stationary for? I mean, in the first round of pit stops, he was 5 seconds quicker out of the box than Borg. Is he going to lose that 5 seconds and then some? Second time round, being mindful, of course, that he will not most likely take on the same amount of fuel to a point as Rudd and Borg did in the first round of pit stops. And the critical thing for Borg is he's got a little bit more flexibility with when he comes in, because his critical number in terms of empty tank is 27 or 28, not Conversely, he can run a shorter stint here if he likes to. So he's got a little bit more flexibility because he got an extra lap out of his stint compared to everybody else. So there's so many variables coming into this next round of pit stops. It's fascinating stuff early on. We've got only 13 laps to go after this one, ladies and gentlemen. So it's lap 21 of 34. What about this on the inside? Good piece of driving that. I'm just trying to pick up a number. That's Benny Morris. That is Benny Morris coming down on the inside of Matthew Scholes, and Scholes telling him to go away. He just put one on him around the outside and said, no, not that easy, mate. Not that easy. But now you can have it. And he tucks back in. So Ben Morris gets by Matty Scholes. The inside, then the outside. And this is one of those circuits that lends itself to such great racing like that, JP. The racecraft has been top shelf from the outset tonight. Caution free through 21 laps, and these guys have turned it on from the start because this is one of those circuits where those over-under opportunities are all around the track. You can easily be passed in one corner and then get the job returned on the next corner. So you settle your invoice pretty quickly.
Yeah, 100%. And it's great to see, right from round one, race one, the caliber of racing is absolutely fantastic. Now, these guys have raced with each other now for, some of them have raced with each other since we've started the series, so for 5 and 6 seasons. So they know exactly who they're racing against, but the caliber of racing is absolutely awesome.
And there's plenty more where that came from throughout the next 9 weeks. And then, of course, our grand final week, ladies and gentlemen, we'll bring you the full qualifying session, the top 10 shootout, and then the race at the 1,000. We are so excited for that. Sunday, December 12. It'll be a stinker because it'll be the middle of summer. So we'll all be sweating profusely by the end of the day. But it'll be well worth the price of admission. You've got the real world thing the week before. Then you just, recycle the esky, fill it back with ice, and top it up with whatever your favourite beverage is, and join us the following Sunday for a 6-hour marathon sprint. And it is a sprint these days. These guys completed it in just on 6 hours last year. It'll be interesting to see if they can better that in 2021. Ben Morris, what about that for a move? On the inside, he's got Davis and Coleman all over the back of him at the moment. Jamie Davis, Ben Coleman. David Coleman, I should say. Look at this. And Coleman has settled in at the back of the toe there. Davis, the meat and the sandwich at the moment. And Ben Morris moves up into 15th. Who'd have thought they'd be arguing that vigorously, that forcefully, over 15th position? But that's what this championship is all about. Dylan Rudd, Robert Christo on pit lane as well. That is happening right now. They are on pit lane at the start of lap 23. 12 to go. Leonage going on, which is surprising for mine. I would have thought that he'd be in a little bit earlier than everybody else. But no, Leonage is pressing on. Borg, Costello, Heyman and Crossing in the top 5. Rudd, McNamara, Crisdale, Angus, Chadwick and Nitschke all in pit lane right now. And Simon Vella pressing on. So he's going to move up into 6th position on the track. But that order is going to fluctuate a fair bit between now and the end of this round of pit stops, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries, the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya 160. And we are on lap 23 of 34. So
now,
we're 2/3 race distance.
One thing to be mindful of here, Zach, is Rehan is going to have to consider covering off Dylan Rudd. Once Dylan's got those fresh tyres, he's going to be fast. And Rehan has to take that into consideration.
He does. And this is just a superb performance. Whatever happens from this point forward, Leonage has done an awesome job tonight. Now, if I remember correctly, he did a very similar thing at the Twin Ring Motegi. He short fueled on that first stop, got himself some clear space, just kept a cool head, went about it through the second stint, and it was in that third stint, once everything had balanced out, everything had settled, that Rudd and he went to work. Leonage is in now. It's 11 laps that this young man's got ahead of him to get to the checkered flag. But Leonage is in now. The difference between he and Brian Borg, who's pressing on, now that's a critical point in its own right. That's going to be the telling point here.
Will there be an invoice is at his pit box.
He is indeed. And there is, on our screen there at the moment, the racecraft entry. And that's the one that we've got
Here
to
we
keep
go.
an eye on.
Leonage is moving.
Leonage is moving. Leonage is on his way to the end of pit road. The racecraft entry comes down the main straight. Dylan Rudd. So he goes along past Peter Crossingham, Simon Vella and Delaney, who are into pit lane. And look at that. That is huge. Rehan Leonage is through turn 1 and he's got 10 seconds on Dylan Rudd. Are you kidding me? Is this the night for Rehan Leonage? This is awesome. This kid is in the box seat at the moment.
This will be a way to send a message to everyone else, and you know that he's got a wily old fox in his dad there, Laz.
Oh, massive. Yeah.
Yep, just working on the statistics, doing the stats for him, doing the, telling him when to pit.
Rehan must not be looking forward to school going back, because one of the best things about last series when all the schools shut down because of lockdowns and everything else, he's like, I'm just going to sit here and chat with you guys until the end of the broadcast, because there's no bedtime under lockdown, because there's no curfew, because tomorrow morning I don't have to hop up at a certain time to get on the bus to go to school. So he'll be chopping at the bit. They'll be celebrating any way they can in lockdown in Victoria if Rehan can get the job done tonight. Brian Borg is in pit lane right now. This is the critical moment. Rainer Costello is in as well. The difference between those two was somewhere in the vicinity of 8 seconds. Brian Borg to Rainer Costello, and then Tom Heyman. Now, what is going to happen here?
Borg is in his box.
Borg is in the box. He's okay.
Rainer's in his box, and now Heyman's in his box.
Rehan Leonage is going to say goodbye to all of them and take the lead. Dylan Rudd, where he comes out in relation to Brian Borg. Here we go. Borg's out. Borg's out well in front of Dylan Rudd. But Rudd is third. Costello and Heyman are going to come out 4th and 5th. Maybe Robert Crisdale to apply the pressure there. Yes, Crisdale's got them both. Crisdale is 4th. What a start from Crisdale. And here comes McNamara to get Heyman as well. Can he get Costello around the outside at 1? No, he can't. So Costello tucks in front of McNamara, who's forced to settle for 6th at the moment, but not without forcing the issue around the outside at 2. To put himself maybe on the inside, the up and under into 3. Have a look at this. Forceful from McNamara. No. He opts out of it for the moment, but he's going to continue to apply the blowtorch here. Costello's going to be under serious pressure for the next few laps. Now he's going defensive. And now look at McNamara trying to put one on around the outside. Not going to happen just yet. Oh, what pressure. So that's the first positional battle on the track. Right there. 5th, 6th, 7th. Costello, McNamara, Heyman. 3 guns in their own right. 3 pretty hot-headed competitors once they put the visor on. There's no doubt about that. But they're so calm, cool, and collected when they sit here and have a chat to us at the end of the race. But you wouldn't pick it once you see these guys get out on the racetrack, because the elbows are out and they don't take any prisoners. So this will be an awesome scrap for the battle for 5th. The last spot in the top 5 in this race. Now, we've gone safety car free to this point. We're on lap 26. Rehan Leonage leads this race by 5.3 seconds. Dylan Rudd is 4 seconds back from Brian Borg, who is second at the moment. So Rudd, to be that far down is surprising to so many, and to be that far behind rather than that far down the order, because let's be honest, 3rd is still the podium, so he's going to continue his run of podium dominance, but he's not going to be where he would normally be accustomed to being. I don't know how comfortable he's going to feel about that when we talk to him post-race. That'll be one of the interesting questions, but 9 laps to go. This is all looking good for Rehan Leonage. What an extraordinary start of the season. The form guide pointed towards Borg and Rudd, and Leonage come out and put it on P2. And a brilliant strategy. Sucker dummied everybody with that first stop. Got out, got the clear air, made the most of it. The interesting thing for mine was always going to be with that second stint, whether we were going to have an issue with Leonage getting stuck in traffic when the other pit stops were happening around him and when he pitted earlier. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So through they come again. Leonage, Borg, Rudd, the top 3. But we've got all eyes on Costello, McNamara and Heyman, and there's nothing in it. Look at this, down the back straight. McNamara looking for a way through. Costello goes defensive. He maintains his line. McNamara, have a look at Sean right around the outside. He wouldn't want to do himself a disjustice, though, by letting Heyman through, but McNamara to pop one on Costello and maybe take Heyman with him. Oh, what a piece of driving that is from All and Sundry. Heyman down the inside, Costello the outside, no one giving an inch. There were nearly 3 wide coming through turn 11 onto the main straight. And all of a sudden, Costello was 5th, and now he's 7th, and McNamara leads the charge down the main straight. And here comes Heyman. They go to the inside. No one giving an inch here. Costello hangs tough on the outside as they go down to 1, and now Heyman comes across to defend. He's defending 6th whilst trying to get 5th at the same time. And as Costello just found out, it's very easy to lose 1 and 2 at the same time. But that's not the last we've seen of this. Oh, what is it about this track and epic scraps? This is one of the best you'll see. And it's for 5th. It's not even for the win. And that's the sort of intensity you've got to expect over the next 10 weeks here, ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for the 1000 on the 12th of December. Oh, magnificent stuff. And JP, ultimately, bloody clean as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was phenomenal racing. However, once again, moving into the braking zone. So there was 2 moves made there by a couple of those drivers. Very, they're going to have to be careful. Race control, like I said before, race control will be onto that.
What will be interesting is if they act on it in an instance where, I mean, the racing clean. If it was a move or a double move that resulted in an accident, all fair and equal, I'd understand them acting on that. But if they're acting on it while it's clean racing as well, I don't know how the drivers would feel about that. But again, rules are rules.
Yeah, absolutely. You can only make one defensive move. Moving back onto the racing line, going back into the braking zone. Once you've made that one defensive move, you're not really supposed to be doing that. So if that happens too often, race control might get onto that and might have something to say about it.
Now, what's interesting here is that Costello's dropped off a couple of car lengths. In this scrap, McNamara's under serious pressure from Heyman. They're about a second away from Robert Crisdale, who's just up out of picture there. Here he is. So Crisdale is 4th. And then Heyman and McNamara are charging towards him. So is this an instance of Crisdale coming under serious pressure in the closing stages? We have got 7 laps to go, including this one. And all of a sudden, you just feel as though these guys are now racing for 4th. They're not racing for 5th. Crisdale, this will be a test for him in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Crisdale is starting to bleed time to these guys behind him. So as soon as McNamara gets onto him, the problem for McNamara is going to be he's going to have to try and get around Crisdale while keeping Heyman behind him.
Easier said than done.
Here we go.
Heyman down the inside. Little bit of a lock-up. Too much of a lock-up. Whoa! Big moment for Heyman, and McNamara goes through. And they've all lost time in the process. They've lost a little bit to Crisdale. Not much, but every 10th is something that you've got to find a way to fight back with. And it's another 10th that you've got to find somewhere else. This is extraordinary pressure in the closing stages. That mistake for Heyman actually helped out Costello. Now look at this. More pressure being applied, this time from Blake Delaney on Ben Morris. This is the battle for 15th, if you don't mind, folks. Matthew Scholes on the back of that as well. Behind them, you've got David Coleman, Chris Barnes, Dean Alessi, and also Jamie Davis arguing over the same piece of real estate. There are battles everywhere you look at the moment. This is sensational stuff. And at the front, it's smooth sailing for Rehan, who's 6.8 seconds out in front of Borg, then Rudd, then Crisdale, then under serious pressure from McNamara, Heyman and Costello. Chadwick is 8th, crossing him is 9th, Angus is 10th. And Ben Morris still holding on somehow to 15th, despite enormous pressure from Blake Delaney, one of the new names in the series. You're going to be introduced to a few of these new names throughout the course of the season, folks. You'll be introduced to all of them on December 12. But awesome to see that people want to come and be a part of this showcase stuff on a Tuesday night, because it is show-stopping material. The sim racing world captivated by what they've seen thus far this season. More and more people wanting to come and join the party. 37 starters tonight, and I'm here to tell you that we've got the good part of 36 still on track. You've got Dean Powell and Craig Anspach a lap down. Unfortunately, the only retirement tonight thus far was Dylan Pereira, but I'm not sure why we didn't see. I'm not sure what the circumstances surrounding that was, whether it was a packet loss issue or whether it was a situation where he's parked it in pit lane on his own accord, because we didn't see it and we haven't heard about it. So therefore, no safety cars called or anything like that. So that's a little bit surprising. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Brilliant from Robert Christgau. Car control plus as he kisses the dirt. He's using all the real estate and some of the grass as well to try and keep McNamara and Heyman at bay. Four-way fight for fourth. Let's do it. Good move further back in the pack. Michael Angus and Peter Crossingham. Angus has got him covered. And Angus holds off Crossingham, and Jamie Dyke is almost back in the top 10 despite a drive-through penalty. Oh, get out of here. That's brilliant from Dyke. Now look at this. Christgau under enormous pressure here. He's locked it up. He's locked it up going through turn 5. He's going to be under pressure as they go up to 6, and he moves across to the fend. McNamara's there. Heyman as well. Costello in behind. Hold your breath, folks. There's only 5 laps to go. And it's going to be over in a matter of minutes. It's going to be an epic scrap all the way, you get the feeling. But the problem is, McNamara is the sitting duck at the moment, because when he gets past, that's going to really throw the gauntlet here for Christgau, for Heyman, and for Costello as well. If you're Heyman and Costello, you do not want McNamara to get by Christgau without taking you with him, because Christgau could be the anchor here. He could be the sticky, the sticking
he's had to,
point.
He's had to go into the pit.
Not. He's into the pit lane. He's into the pit lane. Forget about it. He's in the pit lane. Now, I did not see that coming. Christgau is in the pit lane. So, all those scenarios that I was just thinking up in my mind as we were going along here now don't exist. Because you wouldn't have wanted to see McNamara get by. Well, McNamara would have, but from a point of broadcast entertainment, we wouldn't have wanted to see McNamara get by and then pull away while the other two got stuck behind Christgau and vice versa. You would have wanted Christgau to either stay with McNamara or have all three get past at once, whatever the case was going to be. But it was going to be important for whoever could make the move first to make it stick and then try and capitalise on it. Now, bad luck, McNamara is going to be under pressure from Heyman and Costello all the way to the checkered flag, because he hasn't got, with no disrespect to Robert Christgau, he hasn't got Christgau there to serve as a stop for Heyman, or a hurdle or an obstacle for Heyman and Costello now. So McNamara still under pressure, and we have 4 laps to go. This is extraordinary. So how good's your Tuesday night motorsport, JP?
Yeah, that explains why Christgau flew under the radar and then all of a sudden was in 4th place. He must have short-filled on his last stop, because he's had to come in for another splash of fuel.
3rd stop. Yeah, and that's just bad luck for him. I mean, think about all the calculations going through your mind. And if mathematics isn't your strong point, or whatever the case may be, can be easily oversighted. It can be easy to fall into that trap and bring yourself undone. And unfortunately for Christgau, that's what he's done tonight. But an awesome performance up until that point. He's still sitting down there in 13th place. Probably won't salvage a top 10 out of that now. But that elevates Jamie Dyke up into 9th. Peter Crossingham is 10th. Brenton Nitschke is right on Peter Crossingham's tail at the moment as well. So Nitschke's eyeing off a top 10 tonight. But take nothing away from this guy. 7.5 seconds clear at the front of the field. This is awesome for Rehan Leonage. What a drive. what a statement to make at the start of the season. And you think about the caliber of some of these drivers, JP. I mean, within the Simshed Broadcasting RSRA ranks alone, we have some impressive talent. But then to think that there are people joining from other heavyweight elite supercar racing leagues in this country, and I don't need to name names there. We know what I'm talking about. The fact that this guy is taking it to them and delivering on the big stage that is Tuesday Night Motorsport. Oh boy, this is going to be one hell of a season.
Yeah, absolutely, and he has done this. He has done this on pace tonight. Sure, they made the right call with the pit stop with the short fuel, but ever since he's been out after his first stop, he has been one of the fastest guys on track. So he has done it on pace. So there's no luck at all on this. He's done it on pace and on strategy.
2 laps to go. That is all. So we mentioned it being a 4.727 kilometre course. So it's 9.4 kilometres. That's all it is for Rehan Leonage. And the question is, we think he'll be right on fuel for the 34 laps. It's then hold your breath and hope that he gets home on lap 35 back to pit lane to park it to celebrate. Oh, actually, it'll be park it on the main straight and do some doughies. No doubt about that. From the aerial shot, you see the story of the night. The 79 has upstaged Brian Borg, has upstaged Dylan Rudd. He wanted to lead into the first corner, remember? And it was Brian Borg who said, "No, mate, I'm going to lead. Sorry." And to Leonage's credit, he tucked in there with pressure from Costello. He held off Dylan Rudd. They had an awesome opening stint. This guy sold them the dummy, short fueled, went on to a different strategy, and it's worked. It's paid dividends for him. This is just an incredible story to start the season. He came so close at Twin Ring Motegi a few weeks back in the closing stages of season 2. Now to start the Goodyear Autocare Warana series, this guy is right there. Now back to this battle for a moment. We will come back to Rehan Leonage before he gets to the checkered flag. He's on the run home, ladies and gentlemen. But now look at this. Look at this. Heyman all over the back of McNamara. And Costello just tucked in there saying, look, if you guys come to blows, I'll come through and sweep up. That's fine. But this is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. With Crisdale released, this is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Borg is going to be second comfortably. Dylan Rudd's getting closer, but he's not going to be close enough. McNamara has a huge fight on his hands here on the last lap to hold off Tom Heyman, who will stop at nothing, I'm sure. He will throw everything at the table and then more, if needs be, as they come to turn 1 for the last time. An extraordinary night. It's going to be history in the RSRA Super Series, because Rehan got a round win at Twin Ring, remember? He got the round win because he got the pole position. So he got the round win on points. But this time round, it's going to be the race win. And that's going to mean so much more to him. Brian Borg, I think I'm right in saying, will still win the round, unless Rehan's had a clean race and Brian hasn't, but I'm not sure how the mathematics are going to end up there. We'll find all that out very shortly. You are witnessing an historic night on the platforms of Simshed Broadcasting, folks, and we hope you're enjoying it. We will get back to Heyman and Costello and McNamara in just a moment, but right now we need to get our hands out and smash them together for this bloke, ladies and gentlemen. The youngster, still in primary school, to the last sequence of corners, and to victory lane he goes. Rehan Leonage, out of the last turn, onto the main straight, takes the checkered flag, victory! First win of the new season, first win in the top tier for Rehan Leonage. He's got the job done at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And he's done it in grand style. What a performance. Now, McNamara and Heyman and Costello are on the run to the line at the moment. I will tell you how that's finished off in just a second as soon as timing comes back to me. It was McNamara holding off Heyman and Costello, so no change there. Brian Borg got second. Dylan Rudd got third. Chadwick, Angus, Dyke, and Nitschke were 7, 8, 9, and 10. So what a fight back from Jamie Dyke in all of that. Started 7th, finished 9th. but that's with an extra run down pit lane for good measure, thrown in with his drive-through penalty. Nitschke, Vella, that was 10 and 11. Crisdale, Kirby, Morrison, Delaney, the top 15. Matthew Scholes was 16th. Peter Crossingham, David Coleman, Dean Alessi, and Sam Noble took you back to 20. Oh, boy. We'll run through the rest of the field in just a moment. But, JP, you've been heavily invested in the development of this guy from a team standpoint. You've watched him work his way up through the ranks. You've watched him excel as a talking point, as a racer's racer in the Super Series last season. And now, to start season 3 of the year in 2021, this little youngster comes out and schools the competition. This was quite extraordinary to watch.
Yeah, absolutely, and I couldn't be happier for Rian. He's done a top job tonight. Absolutely flawless, stunning race, well deserved. You know, he's only 11 years old, and it's kind of scary. He's only going to get better from here, and so he's sent out a message tonight to everyone else. Is look, I want this championship, and I'm going to go for it.
20 years younger than me and more talent than I'll ever have. That was just an extraordinary performance from Rian Leonage. Now, in a moment, you're going to get a chance. We haven't cranked up the volume yet tonight. We are going to do it in just a moment, folks, because we are going to let you enjoy this celebration in full when he comes round onto the main straight to light it up. And then we'll have a chance to chat to the young bloke who, I mean, he's making history. He's making headlines. Oh, no. 9.56, failure to complete the cool-down lap. That's Peter Crossingham. So Peter Crossingham's going to get a 3-place penalty in all of that. He was 17th. That'll drop him to 20th. That's beneficial to David Coleman, Dean Alessi, and Sam Noble. But more on that in a moment. Let's celebrate with Rian Leonage. Tank.
He might have run out of fuel. Here we
go. Here he goes.
He's got plenty.
Look at that. This is young Rihan's moment, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a matter of running the tank empty now.
Here we go. I was going to say maybe Dad's going to have to teach him how to do burnouts, but looks like he's getting it now.
Oh, this is just brilliant to watch. As JP said, 11 years old. I mean, wow. What about that? Just an extraordinary performance, a great win, a great moment on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting across Facebook and YouTube. Let's have a look at the results now and see how it all ended up for you, ladies and gentlemen, because by gee, it was an historic night at the office, wasn't it? Here they are on your screen. Rian Leonage on top. Have a look at the youthfulness of that, would you, ladies and gentlemen? Just let that sink in for a moment. Brian Borg, second. Dylan Rudd, third. So Brian got the Fords on the podium. We can't deny that. Fords, in fact, dominated the top 10 just at the wrong end of town, 6-4. You don't normally see that. Normally it's Holden with the better of the sway bar there. But they were 1, 3, 4, and 5. Dylan Rudd, Sean McNamara, Tom Heyman, 3, 4, and 5. Rainer Costello was 6. Simon Chadwick, Michael Angus, Jamie Dyke, and Brenton Nitschke made up the top 10. So the ledger reversed in 11 to 26 Holdens, 4 Fords. Vella, Crisdale, Kirby, Morris, then Delaney, Scholes, Coleman, Crossingham, then Alessi and Noble. And over the page again, Barnes, Davis, Hobbs, and this was 5 and 5. So how even's that tonight with the Ford and Holden numbers, ladies and gentlemen? Schultz, Good, Pennefather, and then Bradbury, Brewer, Dodd, and Sibra. That was a shocker for Aaron Dodd in the end, wasn't it? And that was all the end of qualifying there when he had to get a tow because he ran out of fuel on a hot lap in qualifying. He had to get a tow to the pit lane, and that resulted in him starting from pit lane. It was never going to be an easy task from there on a circuit this quick. Dean Reddit was 31st. He'll be in here tomorrow night. Then Scott Barchin, Bruce Tunnock, Cameron Jones, they had their moments tonight as well that were well documented. Dean Powell was 35th. So Holden's dominated the back end of the field, 31 through 34, 36 and 7 as well. Craig Ensbach was there in 36. Dylan Pereira was the only retirement of the night. And Lee Davis, none from one. No appearances tonight by the safety car, which was good to see. All right, let's get him in here. Let's have a chat. My voice box is going to need some serious TLC at the end of this, but we've got to get our hands out and smash them together, ladies and gentlemen, for Rehan Leonage, because, my friend, that was just a scintillating performance from you. We mentioned at the start of the second stint there that the interesting thing for me this season, mate, was going to be watching how you took what you learnt in season 2 and applied it to season 3, how you responded to the pressure and a few other things that were presented and thrown your way with using the twin ring Motegi as an example. You've come out and answered the challenge, and you've managed to come in and grab a famous victory for so many reasons and send a message to everybody at the start of the season that you mean business, mate. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Yeah, I definitely tried to make a statement this race, especially it being first race of the season. Tried to get as many points as I could. Sadly missed out on the clean race, but I reckon we can get that next time. But yeah, it wasn't easy with Brian and Dylan having a lot of pace, and same with a couple of the other guys. But I think that after the pit stops, I think we just pulled away, and it was still not easy. Still couldn't relax even for a second. With these guys always having the pace to catch up straight away. So definitely needed to push all the way, but yeah, it was not easy.
I'm coming back to you in a second, mate. I just got some messages here from Rainer Costello that I'm going to read out because it'll explain the tale of the tape for him as well. And he's actually pointed something out to me that I actually didn't point out in the broadcast. First to 17th on this grid was separated by less than a second, which is extraordinary because he said, I can't keep up. How close are the times? And then in a post-race message to me, he's just pointed out that iRacing, as JP correctly speculated, put him back on the stand after the pit stop, forced him to take tyres. He lost about 15 seconds because iRacing wouldn't let him go. He had to wait while the car was being jacked up. And then he spent 23 laps stuck on the same tyres. Epic job by Rehan on the win, masterful drive, and he had heaps of fun though, and he'll be back because he'll mean business next week. 6th is not the end of the world for Rainer Costello, better than what it could have been in all of that. Nicely done, mate. Thank you. Well done. Rehan, let's go back to you though, mate, because I want to talk strategy with you. In that first stint there, you drove so beautifully. You were tucked into the battle. You wanted to lead early, but Brian said, no, I'm not having a piece of that. He took the lead back away from you pretty swiftly. You tucked in. You had an epic scrap with Rainer Costello. You got to the first round of pit stops. And then, am I right in saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, am I right in saying that you short-fueled compared to everyone around you and went on to a different sort of strategy from that point?
Yeah, we short field in the first stop tried to get a bit of track position because we saw that we had bit of pace in the first stint, so we just thought get track position, nail those laps, and built up a big enough gap so that we could build just right in the second stop and not have too much to worry about. But yeah, I could feel those guys were starting to catch up a little bit towards the end, but yeah, it was good racing.
Who was more nervous, you or Dad?
I'm not too sure. It was kind of even.
Yeah, and fair enough too, mate. No, awesome performance. Let's so talk me through the second pit stop because again, we were a little bit surprised that you didn't pit earlier in that second stint. You actually pitted after a couple of the guys around you that you were going to be mindful of from a competition standpoint. So you've come in, you've stopped, Did you take tyres in that second stop?
No, actually, we took tyres in the first stop.
Oh,
I
wow.
just thought
Yeah.
build up a big enough gap so that if they catch up towards the end of the race, tyres will be quite even, and then we can fight properly. So yeah, just went for something different today.
And two gambles that worked in your favour beautifully, mate.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, for
It
sure.
it was all about trying to make sure that we executed it right as well, because if we made one little bit of a mistake, it probably wouldn't have worked. Like exiting the second stop, I almost spun the car, so had to be a little bit mindful there. Like just before the exiting turns, half spun the car, so tires were a little bit heated up, but then after that cooled them off a little bit and started nailing the laps. So,
Indeed, you were, mate. And in the end, when you left that first round of pit stops and extended your lead out, I think it was 10 seconds before you come in for the second pit stop. You had a lot of buffer. You had a lot of time up your sleeve. So it was just about maintaining some sort of consistency from that point. So on that note, what was the tyre wear like towards the end there? Because when you pitted on, I think it was lap 13, that's a 21 lap stint on those tyres.
oh yeah, the tires actually weren't too bad, especially start of the last stint. I still did couple 44 flats and 43 nines. So those laps tires felt almost brand new. But after that, pace didn't really drop off too much. Whole bunch of low 44s to mid 44s. So definitely had the pace. Tires were quite good as well. So that's how we kept it. Uh, and without the tires being at that level, those guys probably would have caught me and may not have gotten that win. But it was magical.
Oh, mate, it certainly was. As I said, history here because whilst you technically got the round win with the twin ring Motegi performance because of the bonuses that helped you out there, you won't get the round win tonight, but the race win means so much more in this instance, I would think.
Oh yeah, I reckon it's not just about the win sometimes, but yeah, today it was definitely for me about that win. Uh, First one, really needed to push extra for it, but yeah, tried to carry that momentum from previous rounds in the last season. Uh, and recently I just picked up the pace all of a sudden. Like this week I gained 500 I rating and
Yes.
only did like 12, 13 races. So I definitely found something recently.
Only 12 or 13 races, the joys of school holidays, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I did about 2 per day, I think. Uh, and I think Tuesday I did 1. So and I even had some good performances in the 8:15s as well. So a good I rating in those, and got a lot of experience out of them as well. With a lot of close battling, a lot of pit strategy, everything was there.
For sure, mate. Hey, stay there. I'm going to come back to you. I know you don't have school tomorrow. It's still holidays, and I know lockdown means that school's not a thing for another few weeks yet. So stay there. I'm coming back to you very shortly. I just want to go to Brian Borg and Dylan Rudd in the meantime. Dylan Rudd, I'm going to start with you with no disrespect to Brian here. Third tonight, you were closing in at the end there on Brian, but what about the intensity of that opening stint, mate? You were boxed in fourth with some heavyweights around you. It's the first time we've really seen you under that much pressure at any given point in the series. Normally you've had one or two blokes at most to contend with. Tonight you had three.
Yeah, it was definitely qualifying. I wasn't too happy with qualifying. Yeah, didn't really have the pace in the first stint. Didn't really have the pace all night to be honest. Struggled with tire wear a fair bit, but yeah, try to take advantage of the guys battling ahead. But yeah, tried my best. Yeah,
Yeah.
struggled for pace all night really.
I was just going to say, for anyone tuning in at home wondering why there's still shots on the circuit, the fact of the matter is the race service still has about 38 minutes to go. So I'm not sure if there's going to be any highlights or anything shown on screen whilst we're still on air here. But enjoy the still shots from around the circuit, the Barcelona, Catalunya. In the meantime, Again, it's interesting, isn't it, Dylan? Because you mentioned that the Twin Ring, where we saw you under immense pressure last season, wasn't one of those circuits that you warmed to. Was that also a situation here with regards to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya?
No, not really. Just with real life commitments, just didn't really get the time I would have liked to practice. So yeah, a bit underprepared.
It says a lot, doesn't it? Preparation means so much to some of you guys who really need it from I guess a familiarity standpoint or a confidence standpoint, or maybe even it's just a routine thing. But in saying that, it takes a lot to just hit the ground running. It's not an easy thing to do, particularly considering we've had 3 weeks off from this series in particular.
Yeah, that's right.
Mate, stay there. I'm coming back to you in just a moment. Brian Borg, let's bring you in for this point in time. New name to the RSRA SuperSeries and the Goodyear Autocare Warana series on a Tuesday night here. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Brian, before we get stuck into dissecting the night that was.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you for the welcome. Yeah, just about myself, just been sim racing for since 2013, so been doing it for a while. I'm a bit of an old folk when it comes to sim racing now, but I gotta say, like, I really enjoyed what tonight had on offer, and I sort of got to get stuck into the rule book now and start. I didn't actually read the rule book, so that was my fault. um, so I just got to understand what's going on and hopefully get a better race next time out. But not taking anything away from Rihanna and what he done, and congrats on the win. And Dylan had a good battle at the end. But yeah, I was just like, okay, just nice and easy, bit lane, go cross any lines. Yeah, so it's very good. I really enjoyed tonight, boys.
Mate, you did a superb job. And I was going to say, for an experienced campaigner like yourself, you've now fallen out of the trap that so many of the blokes fall into of anyone but me is to take blame for anything that happens. You've actually opened up and said, yep, that was my fault. Not often a race driver does that. That being said, couldn't have started any better for you. You put it on pole position in a very competitive qualifying session.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I'll put my hand up again. Aaron Dodd gave me a massive tow around the track. So sorry, Dylan. He was more of a teammate to me than he was to you. So maybe you need to fix that up in your own team. But yeah, thanks to Aaron Dodd. Yeah, that's where the 210s was. But yeah, that's the way qualifying goes. You got to pick where you are, and I picked to be behind a car.
Well, yeah, exactly right. Let me come back to that in just a moment because that is a talking point in its own right and why this circuit lends itself to such great racing. We're coming back to that. Dylan, let me come to you in the meantime. And just based off what Brian has said there, disappointing for Aaron to have to get a tow in qualifying, and that automatically brought his night unstuck there. He ended up down back of field, starting from pit lane.
Yeah, but bit unfortunate for Aaron. I'm not too sure what happened. I think he might have run out of fuel or something. So yeah.
And again, this comes back to what we were talking about last season as well, mate. I mean, it was just a case of nailing every marker, and it was a couple of occasions in which Aaron wasn't able to do that, and that was the difference between him being a contender and not, because we know that the pace is there. He proved that in qualifying tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think he has a pace. Just just some little minor errors in qualifying and some of the races makes him have a difficult night for some rounds, which is a bit unfortunate since he's a bit speedy at some tracks. So yeah.
Boys, I'm going to get your thoughts on a couple of things here that we can only do at the start of the season, namely the calendar and also the pre-quali format. But I'll do that a little bit later. In the meantime, I think Sean McNamara is going to come and have a chat to us possibly as well to talk about the latter a little bit later on. But in the meantime, let's go back to Brian and the point that you made there about getting a tow. This circuit, it's such a great racing circuit. It doesn't matter whether it's bikes or cars. It lends itself to fast, free-flowing sort of stuff like the slipstreaming and the drafting. It's almost like we're on a NASCAR oval, some of the drafting we saw tonight. An inch is as good as a mile. But also when it came to overtaking, mate, it was one of those things where you didn't necessarily get the job done in the first corner. You had to wait 2 or 3 corners to execute an overtaking maneuver because there were so many opportunities to perform the up and under or hang tough on the outside to return serve on the inside at the next corner. I'm thinking particularly that turn 4, turn 5 sequence. Couldn't have picked a better track for the season launch, could we?
And I think it's a good circuit for definitely in qualifying. Just going back to your first question, in qualifying, it's mega for a tow for a 1 lap. But in the race, when the tires start going off and stuff like that, if you don't get the move done early, you sort of struggle in that 2nd to 1.5 when you're behind the car. So it's it's a bit of a give and take, this track, with how it is. But yeah, it's an awesome track and a good way to start the championship.
Indeed it is, and it's going to be quite a fascinating season. We'll dissect that in more detail a little bit later on. Now, Brian, you openly admitted about, not having read the rule book. Is that something you do with tyres, or was it something else that you slipped up on, mate?
Mate, I'm telling you, at the first, just before the first pit stop, I had my engineer, Corey Shepherd, in my ear, and I said, mate, can you do me a favor? Can you just go to Facebook and read the rules out and read the rules out to me, mate? He goes,
no.
yeah, all right. And I went an extra lap, and sacrificed on fuel. Like I actually conked out of fuel in pit lane, rolled to my pit box.
Yeah.
I thought I might have given the game away when I was talking about the pit lane entry.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did say about the pit lane entry, because, mate, I would have hop skipped and done everything wrong with the pit lane. But yeah, that's all on me. And then when we came out of the pit stop, I didn't realize about the tires as well. I would have done it a little bit different, and I stayed behind Dylan probably a little bit. It probably took me around about 3 laps to register. Hang on a second. This we got to stop again. I don't know why I'm fuel saving and staying behind Dylan. So I sort of stuffed myself up in that second stint. The gap should have been a little bit closer to Rian in the final stint, but yeah, that's all on me. I need to understand the rules a little bit better, and then coming from other series where this stuff isn't interacted, I think this is a great thing for going racing. Why not have these options in here?
And that's the other thing too. And it's nice to be able to pick the brain of guys like yourself and Dylan who race in other leagues and other supercar specific series. That they all have their different nuances and variances, don't they? No 2 series are the same. There's always, and this is again something JP stressed during the call, this is the importance of reading the rule book, because you might do something in another series that is no go here. So it's one of those things where, again, I'm sure no disrespect to racetrack preparation, but you might do some study on the rule book in the next week.
Oh well, that's why I pay big money to Corey Shepherd. He can do the reading for me and just pass it on. I'm just a driver, mate.
And coming soon to the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, the Brian Board Comedy Hour. Looking forward to that immensely. Now, on that note, let's bring Rehan Leonage back in, mate. I think based on what you said there earlier about missing out on the clean race bonus, and obviously you didn't get pole position, I think it'll be at least second for the round tonight. It'll depend on who's picked up a bonus, and I'm sure all that information will come through very shortly. But this is a good launch pad for the season. There's so much to this season, though, with the 10 rounds that lead up to Bathurst. We're going to do, somewhat in the vicinity of 1,700 kilometres of racing before we get to Mount Panorama. And then once we get to Bathurst, well, all hell breaks loose for 1,000 kilometres. But unfortunately, in your instance, whilst it's a tremendous start of the season, you can't go any higher at the moment. So how do you take the form of this week and take this performance and keep achieving week in, week out for the next 11 weeks or 10 weeks now?
It'll mostly be in the track time, putting more involved. I reckon as the weeks go by, I'll keep on being a little more into it, getting a little bit more official races done, depending on the track and everything. But yeah, and making sure I've got the pace up quickly. Like this week, I think I did 21 hours of practice just coming into today. So yeah, it'll definitely be mostly into the track time, a little bit into the setup as well. But yeah, mostly making sure I get a whole bunch of laps done, and do a whole bunch of race practice and everything. And I reckon I'll be set.
And of course, when we get to round 3, we're off to the Hungaroring, which is new territory for everybody. Suzuka next week, I think I'm right in saying, and then the Hungaroring the week after. So we're continent hopping for the first few weeks, and then we settle into a rhythm where it's North and South America for a while, and then obviously we finish at Mount Panorama. Let's go to Brian here just for a moment, mate. I'm coming back to Rehan, but with regards to you, Brian, we noticed that you didn't pull away from the field terribly much in that opening stint. If anything, we actually noticed that they clawed you in the closing stages of that opening stint. One of those moments was definitive. It looked like you got a little bit of wobble going on through turn 2, and they closed right up onto you then. But I take it from what you said earlier that the rest of that was down to the fact that you were fuel saving, trying to get a 14 lap stint when everyone else was running for 13.
Yeah, well, it goes down to reading the rule book as well. I could see behind, and obviously I've raced Dylan in other series as well, and I know the way Dylan races, and I know that he's a lot quicker than, no disrespect to where he was at the time at in the first round, like the first stint. But if he's sticking behind somebody, he's fuel saving and he's just keeping his tires. So I knew that there was some sort of fuel saving. So when I started to get a little bit of gap, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're fuel saving, and I could gauge by my lap counter, and I'm thinking, are they trying to get that extra lap that I managed to do at the end?
Yep.
And then they went in at the lap before, and I'm thinking, man, I should have just kept on going.
Oh, well, at the end of the day, mate, second is an awesome result. You get the 5 bonus points for pole position, and I think that'll put you in good stead as far as the championship's concerned anyway. And, I mean, there's still a long way to go. Obviously, everyone now starts planning for December 12 and who their co-drivers are going to be. And JP, as I bring you back in at this point in time, I mean, there will be some stipulations with regards to co-driver selection, but it's so critical to have someone that can hop in and run to a number. I mean, we're going to talk about Bathurst for the next 10 weeks as we build up to the 1,000, but having, especially if you're in contention for the championship and you've got to consider, the desire to win Bathurst, the desire to win the Triple Crown, the desire to win the championship. Can someone do the treble this season? We'll wait and see. That you got to weigh all that up with co-driver selection who may or may not hinder your aspirations to achieve all 3.
Yeah, absolutely, Zach. And we will be making an announcement next week as to how the co-driver pairings are going to be working for the Bathurst 1000. Of course,
Nice.
We've got drivers that are racing on their own this season, so we've worked at being able to look after them. So yeah, look out for an announcement.
All right. Hopefully something that we'll be able to mention in the broadcast as well, because obviously there's a lot of communication that goes on to our drivers internally, and we'll try and relay anything that we're allowed to relay to our viewing audience at home as well. I like having Brian Borg in here because I've been in the SimShed broadcasting booth for the 2 seasons thus far this season, and I've never heard rule book mentioned by anyone other than a commentator or a producer, as many times as I've heard it from Brian this evening. So that means that everyone should be aware that there is a rule book and you probably should have a look at it. As far as the rest of it's concerned, the qualifying procedure, JP, let's talk about the pre-qualifying, because we had enormous interest in the SimShed Broadcasting Super Series and the Super 2 Series. Insert sponsor names here, of course, Goodyear Autocare Warana for us. And therefore, pre-qualifying, it is it's an arduous task, but it's one that has to be done to try and work out who's going to be in the Tuesday night show and who's going to be in the Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. And this season, we went about it a little bit differently. Last season, we did allow drivers who weren't able to pre-qualify in our set times to submit their own times. This season, everybody had to pre-qualify through an official server. And what it's done, it's basically allowed us to keep the racing as close as possible. So we've got as much as possible like driver with like driver, so there are no real anomalies in this split or in the Super 2 series.
Indeed, and just talk us through that. What was the pre-qualifying protocol? Because from what I can remember, it was 3 tracks and it was 8 laps that they had to put together quickly. But what were the circuits?
Yeah, that's right. So we had 3 tracks this season. So one of them was the Chicago Street Circuit. We had Imola, and we had the Donington Grand Prix Circuit. And what the drivers had to do is they had to submit 8 consecutive clean laps of each circuit. So which meant no off tracks, no hitting the wall, 8 laps. So they had to be 8 flying laps. What we then did is we took those 8 flying laps, we averaged them out for the 3 tracks, and that gave us our splits for the Super Series and the Super 2 E Series.
So essentially what JP's saying there, folks, is our guys didn't have an opportunity to rest up and switch off in the off season. They've been very, very busy, hard at work, getting ready for the new season. There's no doubt about that. And of course, one thing I should point out there, JP just mentioned those 3 circuits. Only Donington is featured in the racing calendar, but it was the Grand Prix circuit for pre-qualifying, and I believe it's just the national circuit, the short circuit, for our round later in the season. So a little bit of variance there. Brian, as an experienced campaigner of 8 or 9 years on the platforms of iRacing, how difficult is it to put 8 clean laps together?
I'm not boasting here, but I found it pretty easy. I literally just went into the server, done my 8 laps, and said, "See you later." I'm not spending all night in the server.
I like it, but it's one of those things, because I mean, you look at a circuit like Donington, plenty of runoff area, Imola as well. Then you get to the Chicago Street Circuit, and the degree of difficulty just intensifies, doesn't it? Because it's concrete everywhere you look. So trying to nail 8 laps there at full tilt is a lot more difficult, even for the most experienced campaigner like yourself, compared to somewhat Imola or Donington would be.
I tell you what, it certainly makes you sharpen yourself up as a driver. It's, not go out there and just, put the car into the wall because you can. You know that there's a goal that you got to set, and it comes down to your ability in doing it. So I think that everything that I've seen out of this series so far is, very, very good. Like, I think it helps you guys to pick, which group people should be in, on their ability to the way they race their car and stuff like that. And there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely. Not much room for improvement from you 3 gentlemen tonight, though. Dylan Rudd, your thoughts on the pre-qualifying process? This is not the first time you've done it.
I actually didn't need to do it this round because I got bypassed through for previous season championship.
Of course, yes.
But yeah, in the last season when I did it, wasn't too difficult. Just yeah, as Brian said, just got the 8 laps done, then yeah, got out of there.
I must say, as someone that lives on the PlayStation 4 in his free time, I can't put 8 laps together, and I'm not using the whole tech savvy equipment that you guys have. But that being said, the realism of iRacing, I could only imagine how difficult I'd be there for a week and a half trying to put 8 clean laps together based on my PlayStation performance. But Rehan Leonage, were you also exempt from the pre-qualifying this time around as well?
Yeah, I was just barely there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say it's not an easy thing though. I mean, you would have gone through the same rigmarole going in that season 2 at the start there before you graduated from Super 2 to the main game. Pre-qualifying, it's always interesting to weigh up who's hot, who's not, and see who's going to be on Tuesday night, who's going to be on Wednesday night. But how do you find it as someone that said tonight you had a great race, but you missed out on the clean race? But in when it comes to pre-qualifying, when the pressure's on to, if you get to lap 7 and you make a mistake, you've got to restart and do 8 again. How difficult did you find it, mate?
Well, I mean, I've never done a prequel, but
Never.
I'd say not. If you're going for just fast laps over and over and over again, it would be quite difficult. But if you're just going for like your race laps, it's not really too hard. It's still not easy, but not too hard.
All right. Interesting analysis from the boys there. We've got a few minutes here before we wrap things up. Let's chuck the calendar up on the screen if we can, JP, and remind everybody of where we're going. I ran through it at the start of the broadcast. There it is. Now, remember, next week, for those of you in Queensland, the Northern Territory, and also Western Australia, that broadcast time is going to alter because it's 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So that works for the progressive and civilised parts of the country. It'll be 7:20 in Queensland. And this is the first week and only week in which I'm going to run through this way, because after that you can do your own mathematics from there. But it'll be 7:50 in South Australia, 7:20 in Queensland, 6:50 in the Territory, and a charming 5:20 for those of you over there on the Western Seaboard in the Soviet Union of Western Australia, as we like to call it these days, or the Sovereign Union, whichever, take your pick. I still reckon you're going to need a visa to get in there anytime soon. But that's the calendar. As I put the political hat to one side and put the commentator hat back on. Suzuka is the next stop, then onto the Hungaro ring. Now, that's going to feature our first reverse grid race of the season. In total, we've got 11 rounds, 13 races. Of course, the big one is the 1,000 to finish it off, of course, from Mount Panorama on December 12. Qualifying will be Tuesday, December 7. The shootout will be Saturday, December 11. That will be in that calendar, no doubt, by next week, so that we can run through all that information for you so you know when to catch the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries. Suzuka, Hungary, then on to Long Beach, Circuit of the Americas, and then on to, of course, the Interlagos Circuit in Brazil. That'll be the first of the 2 Enduros, except that'll be about a quarter of the length of what you're going to get when we get to Mount Panorama. Then on to Mid-Ohio, which is, of course, renowned for its IndyCar racing. Then on to Road America. Summit Point and Donington National are probably the only 2 circuits in that entire schedule that'll throw up something different to the norm, because we haven't got, it's not a Formula 1 affiliated circuit or an IndyCar affiliated circuit. But if we'll leave that calendar up on the screen there, I'll go to Brian Borg. What are your thoughts on the calendar as you look at it? And are there any tracks that you prefer over another, or are there any circuits that you're genuinely not looking forward to that might be your Achilles heel, mate?
First time I've heard the calendar, so read the rule book.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. But that being said, you've obviously been doing this iRacing thing for a while. You pick of the circuits. What do you like? What don't you like, mate?
Yeah, mate, I like it. It is what it is. But yeah, I reckon it's a good spread of tracks, and yeah, very good.
Dylan Rudd, I mean, last time out, you pointed out that Twin Ring Motegi was a little bit of a half and half sort of track for you. How do you feel about Suzuka and the rest of the schedule, mate?
Yeah, I can't say yeah, I'm not really looking forward to any of the tracks to be honest. Um, yeah, other than Bathurst, there's none of these tracks are really well, half of them I haven't driven before, but yeah, I'm not really any of them completely.
All right. Okay. So
Not
so
really my style.
okay. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because, well, I mean, again, it's the case of the fact that we have 40 racing weeks in the season across 3 different championships. You're always going to come across a circuit that doesn't suit a particular driver. You're never going to get 40 tracks that please everybody. And Rainer Costello in agreement with you, actually. So it looks like you and Rainer are very much thinking alike at the moment. He's just looked at it and thought, yeah, okay, it's going to be a challenge for me as well. But that being said, if there's 2 blokes that are feeling the same way about the schedule, that means that it's going to offer up a nice challenge, and it's going to be the case of who answers the challenge and who gets to the fore of learning these circuits and working out a way in which to adapt to it not being, as you said, they're not being your style. Throughout the course of the next 10 weeks, mate, it's going to offer up, by the sounds of the way you've just spoken there, a completely different challenge to that invincible run that you went on at the end of last season.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna to put in a little bit more practice, get the setup down, get the hang of the tracks, how I need to drive these certain tracks, since they're F1 style tracks, but they're not very open and flowing. So with the supercars downforce, it's definitely makes it challenging.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, Hungaroring is going to be a challenge for everybody because it's a clean slate. It's the first time that we've seen it on the iRacing server in recent weeks, therefore the first time in our series as well. To you, Rehan Leonage, your thoughts on this calendar and what stands out for you, what you like, what you don't like, mate, as the great man Sean McNamara joins us in the booth, and we'll get to him in just a moment. Go, Rehan.
Yeah, I'm not really overly excited for too many of them, but done, I think, most of them before. But yeah, Road America I did when I was still just learning the car. So already got a lot of experience with that track. Hungaroring, done some laps in F1 cars and other games. Suzuka and GT Sport. Long Beach from my first season this year. And yeah, a couple of the other tracks just not really known to me, but and again, also done a few laps in other games as well. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
Indeed it is. Sean McNamara's in the booth. Hello, mate. Nice start to the season from you. You held off Tommy Heyman and Rainer Costello in a cracking scrap for 4th, and, you know, I've done a little bit of damage to the voice box in the process. But your thoughts on the calendar? You're the bloke that really put it all together for us.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a challenging calendar. But yeah, first of all, it was a good race with the boys and well on the podium. Well done to Rehan as well, mate. Bloody stunning. But yeah, calendar, it's a different one, really. It's obviously based on the official, but yeah, compared to what we've had the past couple of seasons, yeah, a little bit more of a European flavour to it, and not necessarily all suited to the supercars. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, and we'll see how the season pans out. And like I summed up last season, we got the Triple Grounds are going to be longer races, and Super Sprints are going to be slightly longer as well. So it's going to be a bit more of a challenge for everyone.
And particularly that 64 laps around Long Beach, that will be a punish for so many. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be somewhere pushing towards 200 kilometres of racing. It's going to be fantastic. Talking about the calendar, I thought Summit Point was a particularly interesting selection by the officials. But in saying that, how difficult is it when you are somewhat trying to run alongside the officials rather than reinvent the wheel and do your own thing, mate? I'm sure there's been discussions had about whether you go it alone and go down a different angle, but there's obviously justification for sticking with the official schedule to a point.
Oh, definitely. I think for the drivers, it's better, and I think you can look at drivers tonight who have done a bunch of official races and bits and pieces. You really get your eye in, and now we're lining up weather and bits and pieces with official as well. It's it brings a different element to the series. You can go off on your own tangent and do a bunch of tracks to suit your own style, but I don't think it has the same driver pulling as what this does. People know what we're racing each week, and you can fine tune the setups. And once those setups are in, you can see the quality of racing that we have. It's much better, I think, doing it the way that the league does it.
Indeed, no, it's been a cracking start, and I mean, if we're talking about it being a particularly challenging calendar or whatever the case may be, this has been a terrific starting point. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, it has thrown an absolute classic on tonight, not just for the story that is Rehan Leonage at the front of the field, schooling the competition, and I use the term schooling advisedly, given that he is still in primary school, but also the fact that we had cracking scraps right throughout the field. If they're ready, let's have a look at the championship points and see where we are after one of 11 stops on the calendar, because by gee, we're in for an absolute treat if what you've seen tonight is anything to go by. There it is. Brian Borg, top of town, and that'll be by virtue of the fact that he got the pole position bonus, of course, the 5-point bonus for pole. So that puts him 3 clear of Rehan and 4 clear from Rehan back to Dylan Rudd. Then Sean, Tommy, and Rayner. And by the looks of this, no clean race bonuses in here in this top 10, because that reflects the finishing order. It was Costello in 6, Chadwick, Angus Dyke, and Nitschke making up the top 10. On the finishing order, I'll get back to that in just a moment. We'll let that points table keep scrolling there. Scott Bartram was the only driver that got a clean race, so that'll be reflected in the points standings when you get beyond 20th position there. Sean, extraordinary size field tonight. I mean, it sets us up for an awesome season if we're going to get 37 on the grid for round 1. The trick is now maintaining that momentum and holding that interest. And I mean, we do often see 1 or 2 drivers drop out here and there, but considering that we've got the Holy Grail at the end of the season, I would hope and I would think that a lot of these guys would be keen to see it out.
Yeah, definitely. It's 11 rounds, I guess. And I think last season we came off the back of a 17-round starting season for the year. So
that was huge.
Probably a little bit burnt out for a few people. But yeah, I think 11 rounds, and with Bathurst at the end, it'll keep people certainly interested. So really, yeah, it's going to be a great season. It's going to be a great season. Big turnout tonight, and it's good to see some of the you probably already covered it off, but the split 2 guys from last season up here, like Jamie
Correct.
Davis and Simon Vella, up in P11. So it just goes to show that those guys are certainly in the right split now and doing the right things. But yeah, I think it'll be good for the rest of the season.
Now, most positions gained tonight. This is an interesting point. 4 of them with 12. Simon Chadwick from 19th to 7th. Blake Delaney from 27th to 15th. David Coleman from 30th to 18th. And Jamie Davis, one of the guys that Sean McNamara just mentioned there, going from position number 34 to position number 22 throughout the course of the evening. 10 positions gained also for Justin Pennefather and Michael Angus. And everything else was single digits or lower, of course, and there were some negatives as well. Dylan Pereira and Cameron Jones tied for losing 29 positions, and Dodd dropped 25 by virtue of the fact that he started from pit lane. So when you consider all of that, some big winners, some big losers tonight, a few guys with a bit of work to do. But the benchmark are these 3 here, Leonage, Borg, and Rudd. And Sean, from your own standpoint, geez, it must be nice to actually have a clean opening round.
Yeah, someone asked the other day about safety cars for last season, and I said, well, I could probably answer all of those. But it's nice to get off to a good start. So let's hope for a better one this year.
All right, I'm running out of time here, boys. Quickly round the room. Let's go through the motions of thanking sponsors and whoever else we want to thank. And I'll start with third place, Dylan Rudd.
Cheers. I congratulate Rehan on the win and Boogie on second place. So I thank all the guys at 95 Sim Sport. I love working with them. Our sponsors, SRT Australia, Racecraft Simulation, iClean Solar, Ipswich and Brisbane, Boss Surveillance Systems, Bell and Media, Racing Ears Custom Ear Protection, 3D Printing, Cutting Edge Tracks, and RSW Graphics.
Org, that's yours.
Yeah, also want to congratulate Rian and Dylan for getting their result. You guys for doing the broadcasts. To our sponsors, Racecraft Simulations, Herod Performance, PPG Australia, Hazuzu Trucks, Authentic Collectibles, Motorstore Superstore, Kookaburra Cafe, and TMB Cleaning. Also, can I give a big shout out to my mum and dad who are celebrating their 47 years of married. So happy
Wow.
anniversary, guys. And also to Corey Shepherd for spotting me tonight. So yeah, thank you, guys.
Spotting and reading the rule book. I think you owe him a drink. Now, Rehan Leonage, the floor is yours.
I'd like to thank Melbourne Hydrographic Stepper, Truck Racer, Simcore, RMX Heatherton, LAL Photography. And I'd also like to thank my family for watching, my dad for being my spotter and crew chiefing for me. Definitely got a good strategy tonight. And yeah, thanks to the team for helping me with some of the practice. Definitely wasn't easy trying to find that last little tenth left. But thanks, guys.
Well done, mate. Congratulations. Awesome performance. Great way to start the season. Another new winner in the history of the RSRA Super Series in any guys, be it NTS, Goodyear Autocare Warana, whichever naming right sponsor it is. That is an historic night that you've been part of. You've witnessed history here with Rehan Leonage taking the checkered flag. Sean, can I quickly come back to you, mate? And then I'm going to throw one more question at these guys just as we wrap up here. When you thought about the battle there with Heyman and Costello, I'd only just got onto the talking point of if you get by Crisdale, it was going to be paramount important for Costello and Heyman to follow pretty quickly, or otherwise they'd risk getting left behind and not being able to go with you in the end. He released himself, and that only added pressure to the battle for what was fifth, then became fourth.
Yeah, spot on. It was that fourth, fifth, sixth battle was pretty intense from the time that Rayner came out of the pits. So it was in behind Chris Daly, who's doing well to defend. I thought he was good to the end. So I was getting pretty aggressive with him. But he pitted, and it would have been nicer to pass him to have that little bit of air gap. But that was I had a brilliant battle with those two boys. It's probably the most fun I've had in a long time. So but anyway, it was good. But it's all about these three tonight, that's for sure.
Absolutely. He got back to 12th in the end. He was 13th after coming out of the pits there on lap 30. And, of course, Benny Morris got up to 14th in the end. He was stuck in that battle with Blake Delaney and Matthew Scholes in the closing stages as well. All right, that's it. With the exception of one last thing, and I'll get a quick comment from the three of you, Rehan, Dylan and Brian. I'll start with Dylan because I saw his mic open up first. Thoughts on Suzuka, mate?
Yeah, I've done about probably 5 laps there, so difficult track, but yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do any practice until Tuesday night of the race, so it's going to be interesting for next round.
Yeah, that's going to make things a little bit challenging for you, mate, but I'm sure you'll rise to the occasion. You usually do. Brian Borg?
Yeah, it's sort of been a while since I've raced at Suzuka. I think back when the FG and old supercars were around, but
Yes.
yeah, I've done around about, I would say, 30 laps there, and by the 5th lap, everything just came back to me. I actually enjoyed the track, so yeah, good stuff.
Exactly right. And Rehan Leonage, I mean, we're starting with 3 cracking Formula One circuits to start the season. Your thoughts on Suzuka?
Yeah, Suzuka seems like a pretty fun track. Haven't really done too many laps there. I've done more laps in Gran Turismo Sport on the shorter configuration, doing drifting or in slower cars. But never driven it in iRacing. I used to do GT3s and F1 in Gran Turismo Sport, the longer configuration. So got a little bit of experience, know what the track's like. But I haven't really done too many laps in there. But it seems like a good fun track.
Well done, mate. JP, quickly to you. Thanks for your help in commentary tonight, and 34 laps that set us off on what is going to be an awesome season. One way or another, we know it's ending in the big dance, the Holy Grail. So the interest will be paramount right up until December 12, whether we get a couple of lackluster races along the way because of the challenging nature of some of the circuits we're going to. You got to appreciate the bad ones to enjoy the good ones, and we've got a good one coming up on December 12. But quickly to you, your driver of the night, please.
Look, you can't go past Rehan for driver of the night. He drove a flawless race. He narrowly missed out on getting that 5-point bonus. Had one incident for the entire race, and he was able to gap the field with genuine pace and strategy.
Yeah, indeed he did, and did it superbly. It was a masterclass well beyond his years. But as you said during the call, when you got someone like Lassif Leonage in your corner, you're well and truly on your way. Don't worry about that. Rehan, go and celebrate with Dad and the family. Well done, mate. Superb performance from you. JP, thank you to you for your efforts in commentary tonight. We do it with thanks to Goodyear Autocare Warana, DSL Welding, Dragon RC, Blue Stampede Labour Hire, SDK Gaming, Track Cams for Gourmet, and of course, our friends at FU Suicide as well. Also, on the subject of Goodyear Autocare Warana, there's a 443 deal on there at the moment on selected Goodyear tyres. Buy 3, get 1 free. And that's on selected Goodyear passenger and 4x4 tyres at the moment. Goodyear Autocare Warana. Make sure you look after the people that look after us. Let's have a look at the ahead at the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting and what's on the agenda here, because there's plenty to look forward to. Tomorrow night, back to the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. The Super 2E series is coming your way, and we're looking forward to that immensely. Again, 8:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time for this week only. It'll be the Australian Eastern Daylight Time this time next week. Saturday night, I've got no bloody idea where we're off to, but we're back with you on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting after a couple of weeks off. Around 32 or 35 in the Weekend Warriors Cup Car Series racing. And, of course, Mark Johansson and the great people there will be with us for that, and looking forward to going Cup car racing with only 4 weeks left in the campaign. The first 4 Saturday nights of October, lock them in. 7:20 here, Australian Eastern Standard Time, and I'm assuming it'll be Australian Eastern Daylight Time next week as well, but we'll confirm that on Saturday night. And then next Tuesday night, 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting across YouTube and Facebook. Join us for round 2 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series to see if Rehan Leonage can back up his superb efforts tonight at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. We're going to Japan. It's the first and only trip to Asia for the series this season, and looking forward to that immensely. 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and a super sprint format, a super sprint race there, I should say. It's not super sprint until the week after when we get to Hungary, and that's when we go to a 2-race format and throw the cat amongst the pigeons with a reverse grid race on a track that is notoriously difficult to overtake on. So that's another element of the play script and the storyline that'll unfold in round 3. So sprint racing next week, and then super sprint racing the week after that. That's it. We're done. As per usual, a couple of minutes overtime, but that's okay. That's the joys of not having any follow-up programming. We say goodnight on that note. An historic night for the Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series. He came so close to grabbing a race win last season. He nabbed a round win on the same night that he finished second at the Twin Ring Motegi. But tonight, Rehan Leonage had his moment in the spotlight. It was his time to shine, and he lapped up every second of it and stole the show with a masterclass win based on, as JP said earlier, strategy. And more often than not, that is going to be the defining talking point of this series. We've enjoyed round 1. We've got 10 to go. We cannot wait. We hope you'll come along on the ride with us as we get ever closer to Sunday, December 12th, and the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. On behalf of JP and the team, I'm Zach Caban. From all of us here at SimShed Broadcasting, from the virtual circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya, where Rehan Leonage has ended up on top in the Barcelona Historic 160. We wish you a very good night.